Good evening, guys. This is Henry Gamble with SimplerOptions.com, and in tonight's free video, I wanted to take another look at TLT. Now, TLT is one of the ETFs that I've been tracking pretty extensively throughout the nightly videos, and we've had a lot of questions on it, so I felt it was worth touching base on. One of the most common questions, surprisingly, that I feel like we've been seeing a lot is this a bearish market, and is this time to get short? And I think it comes from the perspective of, if you look at it from the 127 high that we made, and then you break it down and say you're looking at something like an hourly chart, well then sure, in this case, yes, it has been very bearish, and you guys will remember from some of the previous discussions we've had how I was waiting to really accumulate a core position in this until the 39-minute squeeze that we had seen fire short, until that become exhausted. So yes, some of your shorter term time frame charts are absolutely bearish, but the more you will take your longer time frames into consideration, the better your overall trading will be, especially when you approach that from a swing trading perspective. Now when you come back to the daily, and we're looking at this, and the reason why I was so on top of wanting to cover this is because I felt that the swing from this major high to low, this is your first important value. Now to be fair, this is only the 50% retracement. I'm typically a little more interested in buying the 618 retracement, which would suggest that it could come down into some slightly lower prices. But the other reason that I was so on top of this is if you come back and you hide your studies, it makes it easier to see the price action here. And what we were looking at was symmetry from the decline that preceded this massive rally. Those are typically very important areas, and they are worth focusing on. When this first area breaks, and now that we just have the clean price action, it's a little easier to see. When this first zone between 120.98 and 120.21 breaks, it's something where, could you use a 15-minute trigger to get you back into this? Sure. But if you're going to subscribe to the precise fib analysis, this cluster is broken and would be off of your radar as far as potential trades to actually get in. You would want to see it test the next cluster, hold that area of support, and then look for a trigger. So that's kind of the long and short of what's going on with that particular ETF. I still think it's a great market to buy, but to take this one step further, remember that TLT is a 20-year note. Essentially, that's what they're trying to mimic, and it follows essentially the markets you want to look at for that are the 30-year bond and the 10-year note. So if we come in and take a look at these, you start to see some very interesting relationships. And of course, remember too that the ETF, not only is it not going to follow this tick for tick because it's a 20-year as opposed to a 30-year, but remember the futures will also trade an overnight session that TLT does not include. So if we come back and we're spending some time here on the 30-year, you're going to notice these zones here that I'm focused on are the bigger corrective symmetrical declines, and how we're holding exactly that on the 30-year. It's also interesting to think that during the rally that we've seen over the course of the past several days in the S&Ps, bonds have not fallen at all. They've essentially come down to the symmetrical support and held, and those actually still look very good. And then just to be very brief on the notes, if you come back here and take a look at the weekly chart, this is the most important signal here. So just remember that TLT is comprised of a couple different things. It will move a little different to some of these tickers that you're focused on during the day, like TLT, etc. But if you can combine analysis from the futures markets that take in more data into consideration, note these bigger squeezes that, like on ZN, you're not going to see on TLT, but know that they still carry importance, well then that will help you set up your trading around that and hopefully give you some easier positions to follow. So, still a big fan of the market. I think the market could see, essentially, and here again I'm going to leave you with the same thing that I did last week, where I'm not saying absolutely buy it or absolutely sell it. I want to buy the daily chart when this 39-minute chart triggers to the buy side. As of right now, it suggests it may still fire short, which if that's what it does, I will sit on my hands and wait for the next test of that 618 and then hopefully another buy signal. If it breaks out and does trigger, I still think it's a buy. So I hope that helps give you guys some things to follow as we get the week started, and then I will see you at the next free video.